Alright, it is time to put these skills we did in video 1 and 2 together. So we did say in video 1 that we were going to multiply and not simplify at that point. Now we have gone over simplifying, so from here on out, whenever you do a multiplication problem, you do need to simplify it. I'll say that again just to make sure you guys catch that. You do have to simplify these problems from here on out. Alright, so we're going to look at those examples we looked at in example 1. So just to go through example 1 again real quickly, when we multiply radicals, we multiply the coefficients together, so 4 times 5, and that's going to give me 20. And I multiply the radicands together. Those are the two numbers underneath the radical. 3 times 8 is 24. So in video 1 we stopped there. But now you guys are smarter. You guys know how to do simplification. So we're going to do that process that we did in video 2 to this answer. So one thing to make sure you do is you don't lose that 20 out in front, but we're only going to do the factor tree for the square root of 24. So when we break down that square root of 24, we again could have multiple combinations. I'm going to go with, let's say, 6 and 4. So 6 is going to break down to be 2 times 3. 2 is prime, 3 is prime, and 4 breaks down to be 2 and 2. So that's a perfect square. That's something I could have actually looked for and pulled out right away if I would have seen that. Alright, so rewriting this, I still have the 20 that's out front from where I multiplied 4 times 5 together. And then I have the square root, and I'm going to organize these in increasing order. So I had 3 different 2's. And I had a 3. So remember, our next step in the process is to look for pairs. I have a pair of 2's, but that's it. So I'm going to rearrange this so I have 20 times, and then I'm going to put my square factors, 2 times 2, and then I'm going to put my non-square factors together. In this case, it was a 2 and a 3. So I simplify this a little bit further. Square root of 2 times 2 is really the square root of 2 squared. And 2 times 3 is going to be 6. So the 2 and the square root are going to cancel out because those are inverse operations. And that's going to leave me with 20 times, this is now 2, because the square root and the square cancel out. But this still has the radical over it, the square root of 6. So the last thing I really need to do on this is just simplify this multiplication. 20 times 2 is going to give me 40. So that's going to be 40 square roots of 6. And that's going to be my answer. Alright, one more example to revisit. And we're going to multiply this out the same way. So we have 5 times 1, which is 5. And then we have 5 times 3 is 15. We have x, and we have y squared. Alright, so again, we are going to leave that 5 out front, but we want to do a factor tree for 15x y squared. Now, this wasn't really necessary on this problem because 15 is a pretty small number. We know how to do a factor tree for 15. But let's say that we had gotten like 76 or something like that. Something where you don't know necessarily the two numbers that go into it easier. If you think about this, we got this from multiplying. So when we multiplied to get the 15, we multiplied 5 and 3. So if those would have been bigger numbers, you could start your factor tree out with whatever those two numbers are. Now it does work in this. Like I said, 15 is not a hard problem to come up with numbers for. But if this was like a 76, or if you had numbers like 24 and 48 underneath the radical, then that at least gives you a starting place where you can break down some smaller numbers as compared to having to try and guess the big numbers. Alright, so x is just going to be x, and y squared is going to be a y and a y. So I had the 5 out front, and then I'm going to put my factors here. 3 and 5 were both prime. I have an x, and then I have 2 y's. So on this one, the only thing I have paired up are my y's. So I'm going to rearrange this so that I have 5 that was on the outside times my square factors, which I'm going to just go ahead and write that as y squared because I know y times y is y squared. and then times the square root of this time I have 3, I have 5, and I have x. We're going to multiply all those together. So when I simplify the square root and the squared there, it's going to cancel out. I'm going to have 5 times y times the square root of 3 times 5, which is 15, and 15 times x is 15x. Crunch that together just a little bit. That's going to give me 5y square roots of 15x, and that is my simplified answer. All right, that wraps it up for this lesson. There are some U-try problems that you will see that are a little bit familiar from video 1. I want you guys to go ahead, multiply them out, and then do the simplification process. Then go ahead and get started on your practice. As always, if you have any questions, please let your teacher know. We are always glad to help you guys out. All right, see you guys in the next lesson.